All right, here we go. Going to be solving some equations using our trig functions, and let's start. So we've got the values of x are going to be between 0 and 2 pi for the equation sine of x equals 0.6. And so hopefully you're saying, hey, that means we're going to be finding an angle measure right here. I need to use the inverse of sine. And so sine inverse of 0.6. Let's go ahead and hit that into our calculator. So sine inverse of 0.6 gives us right around 0.64. So 0.64. Okay, and that seems to make sense. But we need to recall that if we're using the inverse of sine, if that's our function, that its domain for sine inverse, or the inverse of sine, is from negative pi over 2 to, to positive pi over 2. And our domain here is going to be quite a bit bigger. So what really is happening for that sine inverse, and we've talked about this in class a bit, that we are only really considering the first and fourth quadrants. But sine, however, the sine of an angle, we could have 0.6 also in the second quadrant. Right, if we're having 0.6 right here, 0.6, we would also have that same value if the same reference angle, 0.6, right over here. So how would we find out what that is? So let's think through it for a second. We're told that the angle is 0.64. That's what we just figured out. And maybe I'm going to draw a little bit bigger sketch. Then we have a triangle here where the y value for sine is 0.6. It's a little bit more than a half, so it's more than a 30-degree angle or more than pi over 6. But where is that going to be over here in quadrant 2? So remember, this reference angle we just found to be 0.64 radians. And so now if we were to draw that out going to the other side into quadrant 2, the same reference angle, 0.64, how could we find out what our angle was from standard position? What would this angle measure right here be? And so to do that, let's think about what is this angle measure? And that's pi, right? That's pi. Now what we're going to be subtracting away from it is 0.64. So let's go ahead and set that up. In quadrant 1, we already have our answer. So in quadrant 1, our answer is that x is equal to 0.64, but it's also going to be equal to 1/2, or sorry, to 0.6. Sine of x will also be equal to 0.6 in quadrant 2. So we need to figure out that value, and we just said that it would be pi minus this value right here, and I'm just going to do the 0.64. Actually, let's go back. Can I store that? I think it's too late. So sine inverse of 0.6, and then let's store that value as, let's see, as p. Okay, so now let's do pi minus what we just stored as p. And we get 2.4998. Let's round that up to just 2.50. So So 2.50. And we could get that same value if we just were to round off. So remember we said that this was pi, and pi we'll often think of as 3.14. So there's pi, and now we're going to subtract that reference angle of 0.64. And what is 3.14 minus 0.64? Well, that's 2.5, 2.50. So even with a very specific answer, we can see how close just by rounding we got there as well. So we'll continue to solve equations going through, and just yeah, hope this helps. Do try some of the equations first. See if you can reason your way through now that being reminded of, hey, sine inverse has a specific domain. However, the questions ask us a different domain. What can we do about that? So, all right, hope that helps.